I was born in Germany, and I was grown up here. I came here as a child of 4 years old, and I grew up here since 33. I grew up as an ordinary child in Jerusalem with friends, and I learned in a school, in a school half, in a school you can say that it is half religious or half religious, yes? School of boys, only boys, and it was like a school of boys with, with with all the against the teachers and and all that, And then I joined the Shomer HaTzair. And, and Shomer HaTzair was outcast in this school. And this brought me conflicts with the teachers and so on. So I went to the school of the Histadrut. It was Bet Chinuch, yes, and that was very good. And it was mixed with girls and there. And it was good, and then yes, and yes. So I grew up till 18, not till 18, till 17, and I was 15, and I went to the Haganah, the Shomer HaTzair, to the Haganah. And from then, I thought yes, with camps, with seminarians, with various happenings. Yes, it was very good, a youth organization, It was good, yes. And it was till 46 or 47. And then it began. It began in 46, I think. It was beginning of moraot, of happenings. Yeah, they killed Jews. It was before the declaration of, before the separation, yes. And then we were in a course near Nahariya, and it was very interesting, but then came the order to guide, in one moment it changed, and they began shooting and near Tel Aviv, yes, and we became soldiers. We were pupils. Then I came to Jerusalem again, and from then on, we began to be soldiers, pupils, but soldiers, yes. till the 29 of November. Yes, and all with this always we went to gardening, in the time of studying, it was mixed, yes? Yes. Then I can recall an event which, when they took us to a settlement in Gush Etzion. In Gush Etzion were 4 kibbutzim. And one of them was Shomer HaTzair, that was Revadim. Yes? And, during a night we built a kibbutz. Yes? Kibbutz. And then I went back, and it began the separation, the partition, yes. And it was a very, very great, as Chava told you, it was not yet the state, but it was the partition for 2 states. And I said it was, I disliked it. From the beginning, I disliked it. And from then on, we all, as I said, it was, part every few days. Every few days we went for Shmirah. It means Shmirah, it's guardians, And from then on, we can say that it was half mobilization. But I was a pupil. In the same time, I was a pupil in the college. Yes, it was very interesting. Yes. Now it comes for the separation, and it began to be serious. We became mobilized. And don't forget, I was a pupil at the same time. Yes. In my class, as I told you, I was in the Haganah, but the remainder of the pupils were not yet. They were younger. Yes. Now, I can tell you, the first time that I went of guarding a convoy. It was not a convoy. It was a bus with travelers. Where we were 2 or 3 guys inside the bus, and we had to guard the bus. Yes? And we went to Tel Aviv, and to Tel Aviv, in the outskirts of Tel Aviv, they were shooting or threatening. I threatened the Arabs, yes. I threatened them, and they ran away, and we came into Tel Aviv at at a place, the old Egged, yes, and we had a good meal, and then we went on back to Jerusalem. And we went first of all, to Nes Ziona. Nes Ziona, then there were a gathering of Arabs in Nes Ziona. This is a colony of, Nes Ziona is near Rishon. And there were a gathering of Arabs, and they were threatening and speaking. I put out my pistol, a small gun, a pistola Beretta. Pistola Beretta. And I threatened them not to, I was afraid. I had all a bus on my responsibility. I was at all not 18 years old. As I told you, I was a pupil. And I threatened them, okay. They retreated, and we went through Hulda. This is near Rishon, near Ramle. Not to go through Ramle, because Ramle was Arab, was a city of Arabs, and we surrounded Ramle, and we came out, and then, and all the time, there was a British משוריין, armored car before us. So I was afraid, because if they caught me with arms, there was the British still in Palestine, and I was aware that the British are not far. Now, when we came to a village, it's not important. I don't tell the name now. I don't tell. I'm still afraid. It was we came, and then was a barrier of stones, because the villagers made a barrier of stones. And don't forget, the British were not far. I saw this, and I told, this I remember, because this is I told the driver to break the barrier. And then came Arabs. Came maybe 8, 10 Arabs. I was alone with the pistola Beretta, And then I told them to go away. I did not shoot at once. I told them to go away. I speak Arab, a bit. I speak Arab. But they did not. Then they began to try to climb on the, and I shot, and I hit maybe 3, 4. I don't know how many. And they began to. They were half dead, half, I told him, drive away. And so he did, and we drove away. And yes, this was the first memory You know, this is the memory of which I have of the war, really war, you know, with shooting and killing maybe. And we went to Jerusalem. In Abu Ghosh, there were again Arabs which came in Abu Ghosh, you know, Abu Ghosh is near Jerusalem, came some boys that I shot, but not to hit, and we came to Jerusalem. And now what's interesting, I went home, and in the morning I came to the school. I came to school, and the teacher, the teacher wanted me to know and to know and to memorize it. This was the first, you know, the brainwashing, and no, from then on there went other escorts and so on, so on. Yes. Now it went on, and on the 15th of May, when there was erected Israel, founding of Israel, the founding erected, founding of Israel, it was, yes, I was there in the club of Shomer HaTzair with a few members, also of the Haganah. And there came one grown-up, and he said, be on the guard, because we want you to go to Kiryat Anavim. Kiryat Anavim is near Jerusalem. Kiryat Anavim, a kibbutz. Anavim. There you will join a group. You know, he did not say what the group is up to. Yes? Okay. We waited. We waited. At the end, they said, we don't need you. Wait for another time. Yes? And in the following day, or after it, we heard that 35 boys, men, were fighting to death in Gush Etzion, yes, and no one of them remained alive. And after that, we heard what they did, and they cut, you know what they know, what they did, what they. Bodies were mutilated. Yes, mutilated. The organs, the head. All this we heard about it. Yes, this was one of the experiences. Yeah. From then, I don't remember everything. From there, yes, and then began the siege of Jerusalem. And we prepared, you know Sha'ar HaGai. Sha'ar HaGai is the entering of the hills of Jerusalem. You go in the lowland, and then you come to an opening. It's called Sha'ar HaGai, the opening of the valley, they call it. Yes, this is known, and they prepared us, with, it was before the siege. They prepared us to, with armed, we made armed cars, from junks, from old buses, armed cars. We are with an armor of steel, and there was an opening in the floor of the bus so when we were attacked, then we should not go out because it was dangerous. We can go under the car, and from them to defend ourselves. And this was the time of Kaugji. You heard about him? Kaugji. Yeah, he was then in the hills of Israel, of Judea. He went back, he began in the Jerusalem and then to Nablus and so on till he was diminished, Yes. And then that was the time when he was near Bet Machasir. Bet Machsir is the village in the heights of Sha'ar HaGai. Sha'ar HaGai, it's very, very high, and from there you can shoot, the cars which went on the way below. You could shoot from above. And it was then the aim to take the place. Yes. I was not there, but I was there, but not in this operation. Yes. This is the second time. Then there was the siege of Jerusalem. First of all, it was shortage of water. It was shortage of water. We took water with buckets, everyone. And then they began shooting Jerusalem from all sides, from the old city. There was shortage with bread. There was hunger, not hunger, really hunger, but it was a shortage. Yes. And at the home, I was there and then at my parents. We built barracks. We built the barracks of sacks with sandbags, yes, on the windows because it was dangerous. People went died, yes. In the queue of water, there came a shrapnel, and they were killed. People, and yes, and then I wanted to take care of my family, and I went to the Valley of the Cross. there was then, now it's not yet, there was then trees. And I went there to take trees for cooking, for cooking. There was not fuel, yes? And which I remember there, that one איך אומרים פגז? One shell fell near me, you know. And so I came home and yes, and so they shelled us from 4 directions, and there was an air raid from above, from the Egyptians. From the Egyptians, the shells came from the legion, from the Arab legion, but the Egyptians contributed also their part. They made an air raid from above. So you can imagine, yes? This was the reality in Jerusalem. Yes. Then came the siege. Yes, and of course I was already. I was from time to time in the and then. I was in the you know, in the Notre Dame monastery. It's a very great, you know, very great monastery. And there I spent time because we were fighting there. We were fighting there, and yes, and you know. This Notre Dame, it was in the vicinity of a great house. The great house was the house of Jamal Husseini. Jamal Husseini was the cousin, or the cousin of the Mufti. You know where's the Mufti? Yeah, the Mufti, they were dangerous. The Mufti, it was, what? Haj Amin al-Husseini, and it was his cousin or his brother, not important, but he was very rich, and the house was big but empty. Empty. And then I went to the houses in the nearby, near the Notre Dame, and I saw the houses full of, you know, full of, as if the people were now running, as she said, yes, with the coffee on the table, and also, I asked, what is this? He is the rich man. He went away before them. Yes? You see? And it was a wonder how the rich man managed to run away with all his what? With all his belongings, with all his wives, with all his children. But it was a big house, maybe 3 stories and wide. And here, near him, there were flats, you know, as I said, as I told you, full of equipment. And this is something which tells you about them. After it was Kiss Fire. And I endly went to the shore, to the length of the shore, and I came to the kibbutz Sa'ar, as I told you. Yes. And yes, from that it was, yes, this is what I can tell you. Yeah, I joined it as I joined it as a boy, you know, in the age of 12, 13. I didn't know a lot of Shomer HaTzair, but I liked it because they were, maybe they were snobs a bit, and I don't know, but they were better than others. I was in the Beitar, and you know, Beitar is the movement of the revisionists, but I disliked it. But I liked the Shomer HaTzair because they were nice girls, and you know, nice boys, and they played and they made fun. I did not join it politically. Politics it became afterward. Yes, what I can tell you is that my friend organized me to the Shomer HaTzair, and I came there, and the instructor מדריך לו, the instructor told us about, you know, about the Mexican boy who fought the boxer, Jack London story, and I liked it. And then I then I came again, and then he spoke about the Phoenicians in Lebanon, you know, from the old times, about the sea and so on, and I liked it. Yes, and the friend did not come to Shomer HaTzair. I told him, why don't you come? And I began to be enthusiastic about it. I asked him, why don't you come again? You brought me. He told, my mother says that they are communists. Yes. And since then, I became a member of Shomer HaTzair, and you know, you know, this is like Shomer HaTzair is like a movement of scouts. Yes, with you know, here you take this no. Ma? Yes, with you know, here and you know, and signs of yes, all that. And then I became an instructor in Shomer HaTzair, and in the end, I went to a kibbutz of Shomer HaTzair. This is the same kibbutz which she says. Yeah? And this is the end. Yes. I joined the Haganah at the same time, yes? At the same time, Haganah is Haganah. All of us in Shomer HaTzair were members of the Haganah. If one were not in the Haganah, it was an outcast. Yes. In one night, then there was still the British in Palestine, and it was forbidden. It was forbidden. So we came there, and in one night we built the foundations of the kibbutz, so they could not destroy it, because if there is an Ottoman, a Turkish law, I think that if there is a roof, then then you could not destroy. It's from the Turks then. Yes? So in one night, we built a foundation of a kibbutz. You asked Chava, what is Zionism? We were Zionists. We were for building a homeland. I, with the difference of her, we did not come in the war. We came before the war. And my father, he was so-called a Zionist. My parents were in a club of Zionists in Berlin. With the instruction of Arlozorov. You know what Arlozorov? The man who was killed, a very important man, he was the instructor there, and he taught them Hebrew. And my father came here to be a settler, in Atarot. You know, Atarot is north of in Kalandia. You know, this was once a settlement of Israelis. Yes, and he wanted to be there a settler, but I don't know. It did not come out. He came with equipment, books with of growing chickens, and he was prepared to to be a Zionist here, to build the land. Yes, and for me it was understandable. All the Jews from the diaspora should come here. This was the alphabet, it was the essential. Everybody believed it. I remember when I was a small child, I said, what are the Arabs doing here? They should go to Arabia. Why are they here? Yes, always was not always, but from time to time we throw stones one of one another. Yes, I grew up in an environment of Arabs. Not Arabs but near us was an Arab village, and they came every day, and they came, and it was neighbors. Yes, in the Moraot, איך אומרים Moraot? In the riots. In the riots, they did not come, the Arabs. When the riots ended, they came as usual, selling sand for cleaning, and they came with ships to milk the ships. It was a good life. From time to time.
Riots at 36 to 39, I think.
Came from 36 to 39. Yes. No. It was when I was a child. But no, I asked, what are they doing here? This is our land. What are they doing? We came here to our land. It's natural. Yeah. Yes, with the friends, this is the question. It depends on what friends. Most of the friends are right wings. They don't believe in peace. You can on one hand you can find friends which have my opinion. Yes. The most of the people are for I don't know. Yes, this is the question. This is our living here. There was a queue when you stand, where you stand with your bucket, and wait for water. And then you go home and put the water in. Yes, and you wait for another day. And for instance, cigarettes. My father was smoking cigarettes, and he did not have cigarettes. And then he assembled cigarettes, and took the tobacco off yes, so he can smoke. Yes. One event was with the man called זה שהרגו אותו. זה שבגידה, טוביאנסקי. One thing was there that an officer, an Haganah officer, was accused in treason, and he was executed. Executed without, very shortly they killed. No trial, yes. And this till today, it is something, why did you kill him? And the man who accused him, who judged him, was one of Shomer HaTzair, Isser Berry. Isser Berry was one of Shomer HaTzair. Yes, this was a thing which I remember good from the time. Yes, my father had his shop in the old city of Jerusalem. And when there came the fighting, he lost all his property. Then he had another place. Yes. One thing I can tell you that I was not such a big fighter. As I told you, I was a pupil in the college. Now, my group went to the old city. There was a siege there too. To the old city, they fought in the old city, and they fell in captivity in Jordan. I had muzzle, yes, that I did not be there. And, okay, I can tell you more and more and more the whole night. There was a massacre in Deir Yassin. You heard about it? After the massacre, they took the people which remained, they took them in a car and went through Jerusalem. And I found it very, very nasty that they took the people of this village after the massacre. They took them into Jerusalem. I did not like it. Yes, I always was. I told you I was a Zionist, and after these things, I did not know if I am a Zionist. You know? It was very ugly that they took the people from the massacre to Jerusalem. I did not like it. And so I began to be not so addicted to the I am opposing. All the time I am opposing. I have to say about what is happening here. Yeah, but it does not help. You can't speak with people. They say you are naive. This is reality here. Yes, I were in various places, here and there, First of all, I want to remind you. First of all, in the partition, in the declaration of the state, I was not happy. I did not dance, yes, and I said it will be trouble. It will be trouble, and it became trouble. Yes, I did not. Yes. And what was afterwards? Yes. Then they took me to the army again. They took me to the army again because this is complicated. I was in a kibbutz. And from the kibbutz, they said that I should go to the army. I was in the army beforehand, but they wanted me to be again in the army.
It's not official. When you 48, it was not official.
Yes. In short, I served in the army 2 years more. Yes. And what I tell you, I was in the Navy, in the Chel Hayam. Yes. And what I tell you, afterwards I was a fisherman in a fishing boat. in a fishing boat. So I made some years in the sea in a fishing boat. And yes, and this is it. I don't want to think about it. It's a black hole. I don't want to think about it. You know, I see almost every day, I see the Second World War with Hitler. I can see the war of Russia, of Germany, Russia, England, and America. I can see it, and I know it by heart. And I can see it and see it and see it. And I ask about Hitler, what made him such a thing? On and on. But on 48, I don't like to see it.
Television.
What?
Television. You see the Second World War. But
Yes, on television. Where can I see it? In television. But you know, I don't want to think about 48. It's like a hole. A hole.